G'day, welcome one and all to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. This time we are going to be continuing with another past Hero of the Month. Specifically, we are going to look at the 5-star legendary red heroine, Jocasta, when we can find her. There she is. The Supreme Lifeguard. Now, Jocasta was first introduced to us in the game as the featured hero of the month in January of 2020, so long time ago now, and then she was featured again as a second time for the hero of the month in June of 2020. So originally they just released 5 heroes of the month, recycled them around for about a year and a bit before they started releasing new ones into the game. So Jocasta today, however, is only available for summons from the Manor of Legends portal, which rolls around once every 4 weeks. This portal, however, has some pretty horrendous odds. So you've got only a 0.9% chance to summon any one of the growing pool of non-featured heroes. I think they're up to like 30 or 35 heroes that are non-featured now. When they are a featured hero, those odds do go up a bit to 1% for one of the 2 options. So still not great odds. There's a limited number of times that a hero can be featured, and I don't think we're going to see Jocasta get featured in the portal again, which means that the odds of summoning her are slim to none, unfortunately. Her artwork, so I'll flip over to my roster real quick. So her artwork, it's kind of, I don't know, a little bit here and there. She's titled as a lifeguard, but she's more of a medic, I guess, is more what she looks like rather than being a lifeguard. So she's got like the portable field kit. She's got literally medic on her shoulder patch there. Got some Pacific Islander sort of themes going, with like the flower in the hair, some of that tribal art, tattoo work and that kind of thing, and carrying a rifle, because that's what all lifeguards carry in their kit bag. But anyway, that's her artwork. Heading back over to the portal and we can continue discussing her card. So the next thing to talk about is her family bonus. Unfortunately, being a hero of the month, Jocasta, like all old heroes of the month, doesn't actually have a family bonus. There isn't one in the game. Maybe sometime down the track, SGG will add one to old heroes of the month, but at this stage, they just don't get anything. Moving on to her stats, so Jocasta has 724 attack, 621 defense, and 1445 HP. So I will point out, Jo is she's the OG Heroes of the Month group. So she has, of all the Heroes of the Month, the lowest stat line, and these sort of have been left further behind with like the power creep that's happened since that stage. So in spite of all of that, Jo does have quite a hefty attack stat for a healer. She comes in with 724 attack, so that is skewing away from a defense stat, which is quite surprisingly low for a healer. So yeah, that's sort of her stat spread there. Moving on, her charge speed is 36, which is slow. Now this requires 12 tiles to charge. It's like just over the threshold from 13 into 12 tiles. So in order to charge her, 12 tiles to charge or 6 ghosted tiles. Speed break needs +7, which you can do with any of the red speed guns available, including the 4-star option that gives +7 speed. Alternatively, you can use the Firewing Trig or Chekhov SVK, which give +9 each. A double speed break needs +14, which you can't do with the current weapons or emblem combinations. So on this one, the class emblem node isn't hugely relevant, so you can probably give it a miss. There is something really interesting with her charge speed and her special skill, but I will cover that off later. But suffice to say, hang in there because it is freaking awesome, this interaction. In terms of her class, Jocasta is a medic class hero. So this grants her the chance to heal all allies for 7% health after receiving any damage. It's a really handy perk. It's effectively free healing to all allies for 7% of their health. The only downside is that can only proc once per turn, and that's at the end of the turn. So it doesn't really matter how many instances of damage you take, there'll only be 1 healing. It also means that if you get hit 5 times and the hero dies, they won't cast the medic class talent because they're dead. But still really great talent to have. By way of an emblem path, I'm going to jump back to my roster, so we'll have to go scrolling again. In terms of an emblem path, I personally am sort of going a defense route with you're probably best going a defense health route, prioritizing defense over health. So this is just to try to boost her survival up, so that's roughly what I've done. So we've gone defense and health at the first node, defense at the second node, we'll come back for defense again, go defense, and then we got defense and health at the end. So this is one of those heroes where you can end up plus 18. There is no need to go to plus 19 or 20 because you're not going to gain any real benefit from those nodes. So this is sort of an emblem path that I would go for Jocasta. I've obviously stopped mine at plus 7 because I have a lot of medic class heroes who all want emblems. Like you can see there's 5 options there in that image alone. So heading back to the portal, and we can take a look at her special skill once we find her. Scroll. This is why the odds are terrible. There she is. So her special skill is titled Pacific Medicine, and at level 10 skill and 35 charge speed, it will recover 545 health for all allies. That is a full third of her health bar, essentially. It will also apply a 38% charge generation buff to all allies for 3 turns, and will cleanse all status ailments from all of her allies as well. So breaking that apart a little bit, we'll start with the healing, because the healing is the first item and it's the easiest to break down in a little bit more technical detail. So the way I have been comparing healers is based on their healing per tile. So healing is per tile is basically I take the heal in their special skill, 545, and then I multiply by their range. So for Jocasta, it's all allies or 5 allies, and then divide by the 12 tiles it requires to charge her skill. So for Jocasta, this comes in at 227 heal per tile. Compared to some of the other red healers or pseudo healers you've got in the game, the only one that actually beats Jocasta is Pulse, coming in at 273 when you factor in her chunky minions as well. Roxy is the other AoE 5 healer, so she does 220, so a step below Jocasta. Then you've got like Senya, who does 132 in a heal over time. You've got some Jargle and Horato and Zidane in there as well. So she is a really, really great red healer. Pulse is the only one that's better than her, and yeah, we'll get to this in a little second as well. So not only if we look at her in the red healers, if we look at her in terms of the overall 5-star healers or the AoE 5 healers, Jocasta actually comes in as being the second best AoE direct healer, period. The only hero who is better than her is Variant Pika and Doc Colton when you factor in his bonus healing. Otherwise, Jocasta is as good as it gets in terms of a direct healer. I'm not including Pulse in this sort of thing because Pulse's minions, because I'm just looking at the direct heal side of things. So that's why Pulse is a little further down, but you've also got ones like Anastasia in there. She comes in a couple steps down. So Casimir, who's the current featured hero of the month at the time of this recording. And Jargle is actually a long way down because his heal is low unless it's less than 50% health. So in spite of her age, Jo has remained one of the best direct healing options in the game from a healing perspective. It is worth noting as well, red is extremely stacked in terms of great healers. You've got Jo, obviously. You've also got Xenia, who does the revive and heal over time. You've got Pulse, who's become very awesome. Roxy. It is stacked. It's got one of the most stacked healing lineups of all of the elements. So yeah, Jo is in hot competition for those repelling gears if you've got multiple healing choices. So you'll have a tough choice on your hands there. Moving on from her healing, the next aspect of her special skill is the provision of a plus 38% charge generation buff to all allies. This is a really awesome buff as it affects literally every source of charge in the game that her and her allies would generate charge from. So this is charge from tiles, charge from special skills like Zigzag, it's charge from minions like Booster and Pulse, it's charge from buffs like Senya, and like any form of time when charge would be generated, it is 38% better. So to demonstrate just how awesome this buff is, I've got to get a little bit technical with how charge works and how this charge generation buff. So either bear with me or just skip forward to like a too mathy didn't listen bit in about a minute's time. So this buff affects charge, or specifically it affects the charge gained. So instead of gaining 1 charge unit from a tile, with this buff active, Jocasta will actually generate 1.38 charge units per tile. So 38% improvement. A hero's charge speed, so the 36 of her charge speed, this dictates how many charge units are required to get to 100% charge. So in the case of Jocasta, she has 36 charge speed, which means that she needs 11.96 charge units, or 12 complete or whole units of charge, or 12 complete tiles. If you give her a +9 speed gun, it raises her effective charge speed from 36 to 45. It adds to it. Now, 45 charge speed requires 10.7 charge units to get to 100%, or 11 complete tiles. With the speed buff active, what's happening is she's gaining 1.38 charge units per tile, which means that for 8 tiles no longer grant her 8 charge units, it's actually 11.04 charge units, which if we look back at what it needs to charge for speed 45, she needed 10.7. Now 11.04 is greater than 10.7, which means, and this is the too mathy didn't listen bit, Jocasta with a +9 speed gun and her charge buff active requires only 8 tiles to charge her skill. Now this is a quadruple charge break. What is not to love about that? I mean, obviously you need the charge buff to still be active and get those 8 tiles while the buff is active. But what it means though, is if you do fire Jocasta, you get 8 tiles or 4 ghosted tiles. Her healing per tile goes from the 227 or whatever it was, and it goes up to 340 health per tile. That's 70 higher than what Pulse gives out. 70. That's massive. This is a massive improvement in the charge, in the healing and the tile generation. So overall, sorry, there is one last aspect to her skill. I got carried away with myself there because the charge is so fantastic. Final aspect of her skill is the cleanse. I really love it on healers. It gives them a sort of second tactical use beyond just the healing. But overall, Jo is still fantastic. She is an amazing hero, even in spite of her age and her reduced stats and everything like that. So yeah, her stat line, it's not the greatest anymore. It was good back at the day, but now we've got, 750,000 team power heroes or whatever they are. So she's not got the highest stats, but she has maintained her spot as one of the best healing options available. And that's without factoring in that 38% charge buff to all allies, which makes her one of the greatest assets that you can introduce to your team in just about any format of the game. So if you are lucky enough to draw a copy of Jocasta from the Manor of Legends portal, first off, congratulations, that's awesome. But secondly, level her, immediately. You won't regret it. She is a fantastic hero. So for her grading, I'm going to give her an A grade for war and raid attacks. She will buff your entire team and keep your special skills rolling a lot quicker. It's almost 40% quicker that your special skills are going to be going off. For war machines, I'm going to drop it down to a B grade, so still above average because she still has a decent attack stack. She's got a lot of healing, and again, that charge generation keeps your buffs and your ailments and that sort of thing rolling. For events, I'm going to give her a B+. This is because part of the event scoring relies on the health of your team, so healing obviously means that you get a better bonus from that perspective. Moving on to the defense side of things, I'm going to give her a C+ for defense. Her stats really don't lend her to being a defensive hero, but she does still have a huge heal and that charge generation buff, so she can actually function quite well on a defense team in either a wing or a flank position, depending on what other options you're sort of building into the team. So for example, with my defense team setup, I've sort of got a Xenia on one wing, some big hitters, a Yuumi in tank, and then I'd probably put Jocasta into the right wing position in that defense team. So she can function on a defense team fairly well. Moving on to the tournaments, there's no grade for Bloody Battle because she's a healer, there's no point. For Buff Booster, I'm going to give her an A grade for attack and a B grade for defense. This is because she does have a really good heal and she generates a buff, but not just a buff, but a massive buff for all of her allies. In charged attack, I'm actually going to give her an A+ for attacking situations, and I'm going to give her a B+ for defense. So not only does she gain a massive speed improvement going from 36 to 65, so that's huge, but what it also does is with that 38% charge buff that she does, it actually drops the base charge speed requirements for the tournament. So 65 tiles needs 8 tiles. With the 38% charge buff, it actually drops that down to only 6 tiles, which is literally a ghosted match 3, which is huge in those tournament settings when speed is literally everything. So overall for her grading, it comes out as being an A- for an attack grade and a B- for her overall defense grade. So that concludes the content that I have for this review of Jocasta. As always, this is just my personal opinion of these heroes. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them, so please do jump down in the comments section of the video and drop me a note. I love reading them, and I do try to reply to as many of you as I can. If you found the video to be useful and enjoyed it, please do like the video, subscribe to my channels to find some other content like this, but most importantly, share the video around, because chances are if the video was useful for you, it's also going to be useful to the people you play with as well. Thank you once again for joining me and tuning in for this review. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, stay safe and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!